Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm back with, I guess, part 3 of the bizarre connection, parallel connection I've been talking about in the last 2 videos. I left off at page 21. Technically I haven't started that page yet. So what I'm gonna do is, this video is probably gonna be about 38 minutes long, just so I don't force my swords to randomly give up on me. But I'm going to read the last sentence, or last 2 sentences of page 20, so it kind of makes sense when I continue in this. So anyway, from the last sentence of page 20, the Savior Arc, season 6, 6th grade, around the middle or a little over the middle of the grade level, middle of the year. When we all got to the football field and were halted by the teachers and things that Woodrue had, I tried to talk to one of the teachers, but they acted like they didn't even know I said anything. We were all nervous just as much as Rick and them were. Woodrue then went on, and it sucked for me and a lot of us just how it went, you know. It was mirroring the start of the lineup when Negan came out of the camper in front of Rick's group, and introduced himself and, you know, told them how it was going to be from there on out. You know, we were under the same impression. You know, the year ended with the same group being sweaty, hurt, and tired, and it ended with us being the same way. I got it wrote as the word they, year once again ended up on a cliffhanger. It should be the year and once ended up on a cliffhanger. When I get to writing fast and I'm not really finished with what I'm doing, I make mispronunciations and misspelling, you know, words and all that. That's just how I roll when I write. I make a lot of, yeah. So I can just fix that real quick just with a pencil right here. So it actually makes sense in the grammar, you know what I mean? There you go. Should do the trick. Got my lucky pencil. Okay, so, the year, you know, just like season 6 did, it went on, ended like, you know, sort of like how it did, basically mirroring what happened in season 6 with them meeting Negan and him lining them up on the ground. Except we didn't exactly get lined up on the ground. We got lined up in a huge sweat and misery with our, you know, back hurting and everything else like that, but that way. Let's see here, the year one, and ended on a cliffhanger just like season 6 did. I went home stressed and worried about, you know, what came next year, just like they all were worried about what came next. Again, summer ended and 7th grade started up, you know, season 7. I know that the first test I had and the tests that came after that were, you know, a complete failure for a lot of us. My math test, integer test, integers, golly, I sucked, still suck. I made a 20 on that test, 7th grade. First 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in? Maybe not even that long. Somewhere around that area, yeah. But I made a 20 on it, you know, and the test, which, you know, followed in the other classes, we either, you know, were either worse or only a couple of points higher, you know, if anything at all. Page 22. A lot of us were struggling in the first few weeks of school, just generally struggling. Heck, we were struggling over half the year technically. So, in the first few weeks of school, you know, just as Rick and the group were struggling, you know, and terrified because of Negan and the Saviors, just about every assignment I had that first month, I either failed or it ended up missing because I literally did not know what to do. It was, like the pits of hell. Okay, just hell for us. For a lot of us at this point, just as much as Alexandria was under control of the Saviors and Negan, we were under complete control of the. Our grades. It felt like it was under complete control of us and our lives, school, everything. Just had its foot on us. You know what I mean? A lot of us felt, hopeless. I know that the girl who mirrors Michonne was failing 2 classes. I was failing 3 personally at the time. She was failing 2. She was on the cheerleading team, but got kicked off it because of the failing classes she had. Just like Michonne was under stress and complete control of worry about what the Saviors were doing to them. The 20% I made on the test mirrored Rick having to sit there and watch Negan's bat. It mirrored that scene where he killed Glenn and Abraham. Basically beat him to death brutally. The scene if you watch Walking Dead season 7 episode 1. Yeah, same for the others. The bad grades I made in the other classes, it mirrored when Negan beat Glenn to death. Yeah, I just said that. So, alright, page 23. This is, like I said, there's going to be many parts to this entire briefing, or this entire, telling y'all about this connection thing. I can't even tell you how many parts there's going to be to it. I don't know, honestly. But anyway, under control by the grade Saviors. That's what it says at the top of the page. What I have, I probably can't read it, given that this is, yeah. That was a turning point for us, like it was for them. I had never failed that bad, nor that many times. So I did not know what to do. Just as much as Rick, Daryl, Michonne, Carl, and the others had never seen that amount of violence or sight of a murder, so they were terrified and did not know what to do. I didn't have any idea what to do, and I was panicking inside my mind, did not have had a clue. I was completely lost. I was, just in terror in a way, but yeah. By the end of the first half month of school, I felt broken, hopeless, and just hopeless, period. Helpless, too. Rick felt broken and trapped. Him, Michonne, Carl, Rosita, Eugene, and others. Me and the girl who mirrors Michonne. Cole. I'm not gonna say his full name. Shoot. I got close. But that kid and the kid who mirrors Carl and the others, the first half of the year felt like, again, peachy, hell, the rest. And just torture. When I brought progress reports home and my parents saw my terrible grades, I got yelled at, punished sometimes, and put down by very, hurtful words, it was terrible. I know, though, in the middle of the school year, like Christmas time, is when things started to, ease up just a little, like a smidge. My uncle got word of my grades, and, he saw them on, he saw how bad they were, on the reports and all that. And, grade websites for, I also came to him and, let him know some of it. That mirrored when Rick, Carl, Daryl, Sasha, Michonne, and the others, had enough of Negan and them, and they wanted to fight back and, take back the power that they've lost, and, and the Saviors. That's when they went to the other communities asking for help to fight the Saviors. and asked the communities for help when they decided they wanted to fight the saviors. They needed the numbers, guns too. It also makes sense now that I look back at 7th grade class, and I remember talking to the girl who mirrors Michonne. I'm not going to say her actual name, period. Person to person about just general things and what was going on. She agreed that we all were struggling. She told me, though, that we could bounce back and try to make it better. She's the one who encouraged me to want to finally do something about these grades, classes, and some of the bullies I had. Some of us had, some bullies, and it was just, ooh, gosh, terrible time, bro. Terrible season of my life. Jeez. But, there's going to be terrible seasons in a lot of people's life, but that's just for example of mine for us. Okay, so finally to do about these things, grades, classes, and bullies I had, it was around the month, 2 months before that point, too, that I started to develop feelings for her. And really, I thought I had feelings for her and liked her even before that time period. Because I always looked up to this girl and looked at her, with a joyful smile and acceptance and understanding and just genuine respect. So yeah, I realized that I did have feelings at that point completely, and though she didn't know yet, she didn't know it. When Christmas time came, though, when we started trying to figure out how to get the grades and up, and what we could do about the bully issue we had, all of us, kinda, sorta. That was just like when Rick and them asked for help to fight the saviors. It mirrored that time. If you still see nothing but coincidences and comparisons in this entire situation thing here, and in this thing, think deeper, outside the box, if you will. That's sometimes what you gotta do. In many situations, that's what you gotta do. So, setting the plan to bounce back, fight back against this situation. That's what page 25. If you will, I continue as think outside the box, if you will. Look closer, because we are way past even 6 to 8 coincidences and the way I see it through here. And like I said about the coincidences and situations, after the third coincidence, it's more or less what's the word for it? Pattern. It's a general pattern. So at this point in this stuff, it's happening at the same exact time it happened in the series. After the second coincidence, it's a pattern, and definitely after the fourth and fifth time, not coincident, not convinced yet, question mark. After Christmas, when we got back to school, the grades and stuff were just how they were, left. We, on the other hand, had hands, started working to fight back, just like Rick and the group started putting their, full plan into action to attack the saviors, Negan, while we needed the ways and knowledge to bring our grades up and to stop failing, and also to bring the bullies, like one of my main ones, I'm not going to say the dude's name, but to a stop. Rick and the group needed the guns and numbers, people to be able to fight back. At this point in time, my grades were getting a smidge better, but not much at all. Not much, just a smidge. Me and the girl who mirrors Michonne, guy who mirrored Carl, and the others, knew what was, on our minds, and, what we were doing. By the tail end of this year, after TCAP tests, you still got TCAP tests in middle school. Actually, you got it like up to 8th grade, so, or at least in this county you do. Was over. In math class, we had one last test for the year coming up, which I was completely nervous and worried about. I did my best to stay confident in this test coming up. So page 26. So, though and ready. Look, I need to rephrase what it is. I did my best to stay confident, though and ready for this, confident though. When the test came, I was so, nervous about what was going to happen because I had just gotten my grade up to barely passing in that class, and another failing test just would have ruined it. Though when it got to me, I answered it to the best of my ability, and the next day of school, I got the grade back, and I was so shocked and excited. I got an 80% on that grade. That's the only test I had passed in math class that year. like 2-3 weeks before school ended. Maybe a little less than that. Maybe just 2 weeks, week and a half. I believe everyone passed that test. Pretty much everybody. I ended up passing every grade and and doing way better on everything in the other classes at that point in time, that day. And forward, I started becoming confident at the grades, and I was telling the bullies, just how it was, and, showing them I wasn't going to be punked with, you know what I mean? We all were, this all mirrored when Alexandria Hilltop and Kingdom attacked and ran the Saviors out of Alexandria in the season 7 final episode 16. Yeah, I can't remember the title of the episode, honestly. I want to, but gosh, I just can't. But yeah. Alright, New Beginning? No, not New Beginning. That's like season 9, episode 1. The first day of the rest of your life? Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I need to remind me in the comments. Anyway, yeah, that's basically when we, what happened in season 7 final when they started fighting back against the Sabres. They ran them out of Alexandria and Negan out, all of them out, and turned the tables right there. That's basically kind of pretty much what it mirrored. This was our 7th grade final, finale. We all rose up and started fighting back. 7th grade ended very well and great. So did season 7 of the series, in my opinion. The way I see it. When summer came and the year was over, I felt very confident at myself and that we all could do it. We were gonna get it done, finish all that. You know what I mean? Like, it was okay. Like, we had this. We're gonna beat it. So next page. Us versus classes, basically grades. So the 2 months of the summer passed. The new year got ready to start up. 8th grade, season 8 technically. When the first few days of 8th grade started, I was a little nervous because I then knew how bad or big classes and grades were capable of getting. However, I stuck to my gut and went at it face first. We all did. In math class, our first test came and I was nervous, but I went into it and I actually made a 91 on that one that time. 91% on that test. Everyone in the class passed that test pretty much. That mirrored when Rick, Maggie, King Ezekiel, Paul, you know, Paul and a few others, and Alexander and the Hilltop Fighters fired on the Sanctuary, you know, Negan's home base. That started the first main day of all-out war, and that's what I kind of nickname 8th grade for us, all-out war, technically. So yeah. So that started the first day of all-out war for both of us, and then when Rick and the other and them attacked the Sanctuary and shot out all of the windows was the same time frame when I went through every class, passing everything. It was like we were the ones gaining back the control. At the same time, they trapped the Sanctuary in the middle, you know, of a massive walker horde, you know, that they wrapped around the Sanctuary, trapped them in Season 8, first part of Season 8, was basically the same exact time we got our classes and, you know, got out classes and the grades and basically pinned in position that was great. We pinned in the grades and got to where we wanted it, and we were like, who's got the top, you know, who's got the power now is what we were like. You know, the tables turn, you know what I mean? So next page. So 8th grade was, you know, all out war, period. Like for us it was all out war just as much as Season 8 was all out war for them. That's basically what it mirrored, you know. For us, with our classes and grades, you know, just like it was with the Saviors for them in Season 8. And on the other side of things, the previous year, before that year ended, you know, the girl who resembles Kendall, the girl who almost said her whole name. Gotta be more careful. Because I'm not trying to give that information out. I'm only human. The girl who resembles Michonne did get the word that I, you know, had feelings for her. She was more or less surprised and curious. She was considering dating me. I, on the other hand, ruined it by being too nervous to talk about that stuff to her. To this day, I regret that. You know, I wish I had gained those guts. Yeah, so it generally never, you know, got anywhere, or at least not then. She continued to consider me as a friend at the time back to 8th grade. I still had feelings for her. I wasn't brave enough to express them, though. People telling her that I liked her like that didn't help me in that long run. It did not. They're the ones saying it and all that did not help. I'm sorry, it did not. I wish they had not spoke for me. Period. And anybody with that type of experience, I think you'd understand. But anyway, continue with this. Yeah. So in 8th grade, as the year went on, I just grew more drawn, to her. My feelings for her just kept growing. Hers, though, didn't change, I guess. But the thing that kept me going was liking her like that was that one day in the middle of the year of 8th grade, all of us still in war with this. I was sitting at a lunch table, in lunch, and with a group of cheerleaders that I had been pretty much nearly the entire year, who actually treated me with some respect to a degree. One of them, back in order. One of them, a girl, not gonna say her name, even though the name on here, I literally say a girl named blank, but I'm not gonna say her name. she asked me if I was dating this girl yet. I did, I did really give her an answer. Didn't really, it's a 50-50. So she yelled over at the booth that this other girl was at, right? Yelled over there. Gosh, and, was sitting at, where she was sitting at, and asked her if me and her were talking yet, and, dating and that, and what was said next made me mad at myself, period. She said, in quote, by the way, I know he likes me, but we never talked about, I was aggravated at myself just as much at that point back, I was so aggravated, so just slap in the face type of thing. Punch in the nose aggravated. Jeez, like, can you not get up enough guts to go over there and say something, bro? Like, it's not it's not that difficult. You're sitting here and you're a leader of a group right here. You're going through a war, but yet you don't have the guts, down here to go over there and talk and bring it up to her, talk about it. Gosh. And it's been years since that. I really, really wish I had the level of just, stupidity and ignorance and regret. That is insane. But anyway, continue with this. Yeah, so at that point, back to this parallel connection though, it kept moving forward and I kept getting good and, in great, grades on my tests and class assignments, though our grades did try to bounce back at us, and we just, bounced back harder, just like the saviors in Negan did end up getting out of the sanctuary. They came to Alexandria and they burned the place up, nearly down to the ground, nearly. They burned it up bad, but Rick and the group kept fighting, and this time, the same exact time that Carl Grimes died was the same time that kid who mirrored him, technically, left our school and went to somewhere else. Don't know where he went. I personally don't. He went and moved to another school. I did know the name of the school, did talk about it once, but I forgot what it was, honestly. He left our school and went somewhere else. He did, that the same exact time Carl died. If I already wasn't, I'd be 100% convinced of this now. Too many, I'll consider all this, as I've said at this point, as evidence. Personally, I do. If you feel different about it, share a comment. If you think if I'm making this all up, share your comment. All these experiences I've had and all this. And most greatly, if anybody out there thinks I'm somehow, some way being deceived by something, tell me if you think that and tell me why. Explain. But anyway, back to it. Kept getting harder and good. Okay, so, trying to figure out where I was. Just like the Saviors and Negan did end up getting out of the sanctuary, already got that. But Rick and the group kept fighting in this point in time, the same exact time that, I already just said that. If I already wasn't, I would be 100% convinced now. It was only around a month after that kid, going away when I first discovered this connection and started studying it, studying the evidence, studying the happenings, studying all of it, the connections, period. At first, when I first figured out about it, I was very skeptical of it. you know, and I guess really he wouldn't be, you know, and I understand that. You know, I didn't want to believe it myself, and I'm going to get into that. I did not want to believe it, and I myself thought it was crazy, you know, ridiculous. But until we kept going through the trials, timelines, and more of these scenes and these happenings kept paralleling with what was happening at school, in the show, kept mirroring events and things in the classes and halls of the school, it proved itself to me to be apparently real, evident, real, to be a true situation. But I will agree on one thing: it is highly bizarre with you. Highly bizarre. I understand that, and it's been called bizarre, and I totally get it. I do. I mean, who wouldn't think it's bizarre? But you know, it's the case. So, yeah. I kept learning about it. You know, this as time went on. I kept studying it, and I'm still studying it to this day. This is where I learned that I had been mirroring the story of Rick Grimes since first grade. That, you know, for that past friend I had, like, you know, that mirrored Shane Walsh, and that girl that mirrored, and that boy who mirrored Carl Grimes, and mirrored the one who mirrored Gabriel, and that, you know, and that at that one time, you know, the kid who married Glenn, and that, you know, kid who married Maggie, and the girl who mirrors Michonne, kid who mirrors Sadiq. Yeah. And the kid, just more names on here, more people who mirrored who, and the girl who mirrored Jadis, actually. I haven't mentioned her yet. Should have mentioned her back in 7th grade, but because I met her then too, by the way. Actually, I met the girl who mirrored Jadis right in the middle of 7th grade, just as much as that's when Rick met Jadis. And it was at the same time I was going looking for help for the McCrades for this situation. At the same time. But anyway, I also met, you know, her at the same time, like I said, through Rick and Jadis and the junkyard, the scavengers they were. This is what showed me that it is meant for me and the girl that mirrors Michonne to be together. This is what showed me. I then started focusing on this connection and her and, you know, the group period. Okay, so next page. Because after I learned about it and became aware of it, it you know, made a lot of things make sense, way more sense that had happened, just so much more sense. I reminded myself that Rick and Michonne got into a relationship that made sense to why I developed feelings for that girl over time, and it told me that we are supposed to come together, be together. I started watching a lot more of Walking Dead, you know, where we were in the timeline, season 8 at that time, at home, to be aware of what went on with Michonne through the season and remind myself, you know, just be aware of what's happening next and all that, you know. You know, just be prepared. And Rick too. It also explained why I always had a big desire. I couldn't read the word for a second. A big desire to be officially part of the group of athletic preppy kids, I call them. I know my brother doesn't like me when I call sportsy athletic kids, that group, popular kids, preppy kids. But, I mean, it's just a name that I learned from my parents, even though they grew up in an entire different era of school that I did. But, yeah. That's what I call them, personally, but anyway. I don't know another name. I really don't. prep, period. Yeah, but anyway, those kids and the people in the grade level, I'm not going to say their names, and again, that girl who mirrored Michonne, my feelings at that point began to grow stronger and stronger, and I had more of a desire to date her and be with her and get to know her even more and all that, all that stuff. Feels almost at the limit to what I meant for it to be, by the way. So I'll just try to finish this page. So, yeah, for her that got the word that I still liked her, she got that word in around March of 8th grade, and she began to get uncomfortable with it, apparently because I would never talk to her about it, and when I was around her at times like a ball game, football, basketball game, or in class, I wouldn't say anything to her because I was too nervous, just too nervous, and I guess she was thinking that I was trying to be weird or something else, I don't know, when she didn't realize I was just nervous with it, just scared to talk about it, she didn't realize. I don't know if this is the case, but I think she labeled me as being creepy and weird over just being nervous. And I know that may in a way not sound fair, not sound, appropriate, to think, but I guess that's the way she saw it. I'm not sure. But if there's any girls here watching that are my age or anywhere around it or got that experience, you tell me, does a girl feel very nervous or anxious or think a guy's weird or creepy when he likes her, especially as much as I'm describing here, and doesn't say anything about it when he's around her, near her, period? You tell me. I'm not a girl. So, that's obvious, so you tell me. But anyway, I'm going to stop there because this video is going to get a little longer than I wanted. But anyway, I'll be back with part 4 of this. Like I said, I have no idea how many parts are going to be, as many parts as it takes to get all this information out because my storage level's aggravating. But anyway, everybody, have a great evening and see you in the next one. Thank you.